Hey everybody, welcome to Auntie Sue's Pandemic Kitchen. I'm here tonight in Sidney, Maine, which is between Augusta and Waterville. It's near South China and not far from Rome either. So we are here in Maine, and Bob is getting ready to show us around his wonderful orchard and garden that he has here. On how many acres do you have here?
Well, I have 22 acres, but what we're on is probably a little more than an acre.
Yeah, so he's getting all this stuff that you're going to see on an acre of land. So, and you can see he's got a lot of space. There might be, we need to begin thinking about what can we grow in our front yards, those of us who live in areas, or on our porches, or even if we're growing sprouts like we did in that one show, you can grow that in your apartment as well. So I'm going to turn it around and let Bob give us the tour here.
Okay. Well, if we actually turn right over this way, the two trees there are pear trees.
Oh, okay.
We've never been very successful. Not this one.
Not this one. This
Those
one.
two there are pear trees.
So this is a pear.
Very successful. We had a harvest last year. And if you actually look right up there, you see the red up there? That's a pear. I think it's the one. It's the one and only pear on the tree, I'm afraid, because the best laid plans of men don't always pan out. But anyway, we planted this about 13 years ago. So we have the two pear trees. And then if we turn this way, we have two peach trees. And you'll notice that I keep mentioning the word two, because I don't believe in planting one variety of anything, simply because it may have a bad year. And were I to plant, we'll say, two reliant pear trees, they're both going to have a bad year. What I've got is a Garnet Beauty and a Reliant, so that hopefully if one has a bad year, the other has a good year. And they may react differently to pests and things. You'll find that I do that pretty much with everything I plant that's a permanent planting. So there you can see the pear. And if you
actually, this is the peach. We're looking at a peach now.
Yeah.
And I want to just show you all the peaches that are here. Let's see if I got a really good shot of them earlier, but it's a little lighter. But there's a ton of peaches up there. And by the way, there's a ton of peaches down on the ground. I don't know if you can see them so well, but those are the ones for the deer, right?
Right, raccoons, whoever wants to come and eat them.
Okay.
I believe in coexisting with the wildlife. That's why I'm here.
Okay.
So, and on the other side, if you look up, you'll find.
I think we should wait till we're closer to show us this, because if I walk away from you, then we can't hear you.
Now, can you get a shot that shows this? I don't know how many.
House.
How many are familiar with hoop houses? This is a hoop house. It will be covered with plastic in the spring and in the fall. You make it
just with these plastic plumbing pipes, right?
Yes, with PVC plumbing pipe. And what this allows us to do is extend the season on both ends in the spring and in the fall. And especially for solanaceous plants like eggplant and tomato, peppers, which want really hot soil, this works out very well. And you can see here, we can see peppers over here.
I'm gonna go inside, and Bob's gonna be outside.
So we've got some very happy, you see all the yellow peppers down at the bottom here? Yeah. Okay. We've probably picked a dozen to 14 large peppers already. Then we go into, on the other side, you might as well do the other side. There's two eggplant. And again, we have picked about eggplant so far. And remember, we're in Maine. These are a wonderful paste tomato that is very good for cooking. And we have quite a variety of different tomato plants. This is Sun Gold, which is probably the sweetest, most popular cherry tomato. I wish you could taste them. They're wonderful.
They are good.
Susan had before. And then we have scattered around, you'll see, not quite yet, these are all tomato, but you will see on the left-hand side, you see the pot of basil? Right there.
So there's the basil.
There's some basil going. There's
I'm
also
getting hungry.
Everybody's getting hungry now. What's this?
You know, I would like to say cabbage. It's in the cabbage family. It could be a broccoli. I don't think so. It looks more cabbage.
Okay.
Mike is sort of in charge of the hoop house.
Because this basil plant looks really nice.
Yeah, we had basil that was like a foot tall that he's already harvested and frozen pesto with.
We're going to see a little can of that. And here's one of the compost heaps, right?
Well, actually, that is just wood chips.
And one pepper.
And one pepper that I think one of our friendly bugs got into.
It looks like somebody's living in the compost heap.
It could probably.
Okay. And then they have, I'm just going to give you a kind of a pan. This is their field, and they have some woods in the back that doesn't get farmed or anything, but provides lots of wildlife.
Yep.
So.
Well, we go back half a mile.
Okay.
Back that way.
Where do we need to go? Do we need to go back and?
I think we got the hoop house. Are there questions about the hoop
get your
house?
Tractor, get you back.
No.
I'm
gonna walk this in.
Oh, okay, great.
Now these are the apple trees.
This is here. Yeah, the apples. And tell us who you grow the apples for.
Those are mainly for the deer.
Okay. I was telling him that Tamer grows her Concord grapes for the deer. So she's familiar with that.
Yep.
Farming technique.
Well, and in pretty much apples require a lot of care because there's a lot of diseases and things that go on, and doing it organically is even more difficult. So we're just letting nature take its course. And then
take a look at this lovely little house. In case the light's not really good, but beautiful. That's their shed, our gardening shed.
Yep. And this is our beautiful compost. So
you can see they're reusing everything. Things are growing.
Yep.
And then this is where you pull it out and put it in the garden, right?
Right.
Okay.
And we're blessed with alpaca poop from 3 houses down the road, and sheep and goat manure 2 houses down the road, which we add to the kitchen scraps and everything else. So
excellent.
And actually green grass mold and things, because you need brown and green for composting. A mixture, about 50-50.
So these are all the things that we all are going to be learning as we go along, as we start thinking more about food security and what can we grow. We may not be able to grow everything, but what can we grow?
Right.
And
here's another peach tree, and the lesson on this one is, I think, thinking about food security, the average lifespan of a peach tree in Maine is 8 years. So when it got to be about 7 years, I decided, whoops, I'd better get some replacement trees. So there's 2 trees, one on each side of these beds, that are my replacement peaches. Only the old peach trees decided not to die, and they're still producing. But this, again, you know, it's making sure that you will have that unbroken supply of food. We've gone to raised beds because they're much easier to deal with. We're certainly not getting any younger. I used to have 17 50-foot rows in the garden.
17 50-foot rows?
Yeah,
wow.
It was rather large. It was a full-time job. And this goes to one of my other tenets, which is the best crops are those you plant once and harvest often. So in that mode, we have the raspberries.
Nice.
Okay, and these are in autumn bearing, so they will be
Oh.
actually happening. Here's some already starting. They're a yellow raspberry. They're the sweetest I've ever eaten.
I'm gonna try one.
Yeah.
They
And
are sweet. Oh my gosh.
I had
Delicious.
2 50-foot rows of raspberries. Okay.
Wow.
And the voles destroyed them. We used to get about 200 quarts of raspberries. I don't know what you do with them. I never could figure out with such a bounty. But what's very
Open up a
interesting,
raspberry stand.
this is interesting, and this you'll like, Susan, is that I brought in to fill some gaps, some of them, the red raspberries,
You froze up.
I don't know. Hopefully we're still going. Oh, Michelle, frozen. It's Maine, guys. What can I say? It is Maine.
We can hear you now.
Okay.
So the real key on this is, again, different varieties can do very different things. And, you know, this was a wonderful lesson. Here's the red, which are being destroyed by the Japanese beetles. And here's the others that they don't want to touch.
Good.
So, an interesting thing. Another one of my plant once harvest is the asparagus.
Trying to get there. They're so tall. I can't even get. I'm backing up. There we go. You can see them. There's some perspective. And how many? So these are the ones that you left to grow.
Well, what you do when you're harvesting is you harvest until it gets about the diameter of a pencil. Because remember, you're taking its new seasonal growth. So you can't weaken the plants. If you took everything, you'd weaken it to the point it dies. So that's when you stop. I usually stop a little earlier because I'm eating so much asparagus for 4 weeks. It's like it's time to stop anyway. But then now this is putting all the nourishment back into the plant. They don't like competition. You want to keep asparagus beds clean because other roots are going to bother the plants terribly.
Okay, good to know.
Now, cover crops are important things, and I couldn't have a garden if I didn't have bees. So what I've done here is bees love buckwheat, and this is buckwheat in these 3. My peas were in these. You can still see some late leaf lettuce going on, the red leaf lettuce. But I've planted buckwheat so that in the autumn, the bees will have a good nourishing food source. It's better than nothing for them, you know, and that's an important time as they, you know, put in the stores to survive the winter. And then as we look, we have beets that are too horribly planted close. We have Swiss chard. Okay, Swiss chard I prefer to spinach because spinach does not do well in the heat and you pick it all at once. Swiss chard will produce all summer long. Turn around and you will see a strawberry bed. Pick once or plant once.
Pick often.
And Roberta, the bad news is Buster is no longer with us.
Oh no.
But if you look there, that's one of his organic catnip plants. So I've left it for him.
Oh, I didn't know about Buster.
Yeah,
Buster was the kitty.
Buster was the kitty. And here you can see just some onions, carrots. This is again all basil, which was planted from seed. I believe that is going to be Brussels sprouts. Michael has been planting. Over here, you can see the head of broccoli starting. Okay. And
more of the these peppers are paste tomatoes.
Here we
You can
have,
only guess what he's going to be making when he starts canning, right? We're going to see that inside.
and these are wax beans, bush beans. I prefer wax beans for the simple reason that when you're picking green beans, you have to say, do I pick this or do I wait? With wax beans, if it's yellow, you pick it. If it's green, you leave it be. It gets rid of the whole decision-making process.
That's a good idea.
Which I find
About
very
that.
nice. There's some fairly unhappy cucumbers over there. We haven't had rain in a month. It's very dry here. Our rain barrels are empty, and we're using well water. And here you can see all sorts of, that I believe is oregano. We have chive
oregano.
over there.
Chives
We have,
is there.
what is, you can,
This looks like marjoram, maybe.
no, I think oregano.
More oregano. More oregano. We've got
And this
thyme
this is
here.
going to be sage.
Sage.
Thyme.
Sage.
Here is
I love
your
sage.
parsley.
Yeah.
So that's all going on there. And then again, unhappy. That was a yellow squash plant. Squash bugs are damaging it. And you know, you get to the point where you've got enough squash. You don't need any more. And if you do, neighbors are only too willing to unload lots of squash.
Yes, everybody wants to get rid of their squash.
Yeah.
And this is the fake chicken.
Yeah.
Here's another view of the wonderful shed. I just want to back up because it's so beautiful. So you can see the whole thing because I can't zoom with this. Just back right out into the road here. There's Bob standing in front of his shed. It's a beautiful little shed, and everything's neat and organized inside. Or at least it was the last time I came.
It's better than it ever used to be. And then as we head this way, we're not being self-sufficient in this case, but it is Maine, and summer storms and winter ice storms, which we get more of with climate change, can interrupt our power. So this sitting right here with a pretty little green light is our on-demand electric generator. And when the power goes out, it waits a minute and then it flips in and it runs the entire house.
Wow.
With electricity. And it's fed by
Lots of-
the propane tanks.
Okay, there's the propane. So you have, what you want to have is lots of redundancy, and there's some
Right.
really nice solar panels in the back as well. And then we haven't even, there's a huge, as big as the orchard in the garden was, there's a flower garden on the other side of the house. But we're not going to go over there today.
Right. So we'll head in.
Okay, that sounds like a good plan. We'll go to the other side of the,
Yeah, it takes me a while, sorry.
that's all right. I will just look around here. Actually, I'm going to go give him a peek of the flowers. Oh, right, the comfrey. Before he left, Bob's husband, Mike, made sure that we wanted to show you the comfrey. So comfrey is an herb that's really abundant. A lot of the really good herbs like mint and comfrey will take over if you give them a minute. But they're also hugely beneficial. And in this case, they're hiding the propane tanks. But you can see them blooming. The bees love them. And they are also really good for healing.
The common name is
Bone knit, right?
Okay, and their root systems go extremely deep, so that they're able to go deep and pick up minerals that your normal vegetables can't. So what you want to do is you want to just hack it down at ground level and add it to your compost pile, because you're actually adding the minerals that these have gotten.
Right.
They're extremely popular in that. And then actually, if you were to turn around and you can go actually straight in, those are plum trees. And you see the plums up there?
Let me walk over and look.
You see them?
I saw one earlier. Oh yeah, there they are. They're not yet ripe, right?
Pardon?
They're not yet ripe?
No.
So here's the solar panels back here in the backyard. And while Mom's going in, I'm gonna scoot over and show you just a little glance of part of the flower garden. Because that's amazing too. And you've got some herbs and things growing here too, don't you? Things are growing. There's their hummingbird feeder. So it's like a little paradise here that they've made. But over here we've got bee balm, another great herb, and a wonderful hummingbird flower. And you can just see, and it goes all the way around. So it's quite a nice place they've put together here. And we're gonna go inside and Bob's gonna show us what he's harvesting. Coming in here.
And then just close the door.
Okay. So Bob and Mike moved here how many years ago?
13.
13 years ago. And the first year was this like a plain ranch house, and they lived in it. They did nothing except take the kitchen wallpaper off because it was so hideous. You couldn't stand it. And then they turned it into this amazing kitchen. I'm just going to give you a quick look around, and Bob is going to show us.
Yeah, the real key on a house is, you know, you have all sorts of wonderful thoughts and plans, but if you just do nothing and be quiet, the house will tell you what it wants. And it usually knows far better than we do. And our plans changed significantly, as the house said. The kitchen was designed for the canning. This is—
Really? I didn't realize.
Yes, that's why the 6-burner stove. I need it for canning. And it has islands so that 2 people can be working or 4 people can be working simultaneously. And because not only canning, but we did a lot of baking. We made a separate baking kitchen, if you will. And again, 2 people can be working at the same time.
This is how you preserve your marriage, correct?
Yeah. Well, we were working independently and collectively at the same time. So it works out. It's a functional kitchen.
Then they have the dining in the kitchen, dining room. It's a great little setup. So, and you were telling me earlier that your dad grew. So he wasn't a farmer by profession, but he grew all the food you ate.
Yes, and my mother canned it.
Wow.
You know, so he came home from work and just went to the garden and worked in the garden until he went to bed at night. And I mean, I can remember a cornfield that I would run through and get lost in.
Wow.
Because, you know, I mean, in fact, it eventually became 2 house lots, and that was just the cornfield.
Wow.
It was
a big farm then.
It was very, very big, and he sold excess because he didn't make a lot of money, you know, and that helped supplement. But the funny thing is, you know, I ate better than the wealthiest people in the neighborhood, certainly.
Yeah.
And as I said to Susan, you know, the corn was only picked 10 minutes before it went into the boiling water. And, you know, the asparagus and the peas. And I grew up really eating vegetables and nothing else. And the biggest problem was, once you know what they taste like, in those ways, nothing else can compare. And you need to grow your own or know the farmer who is growing your own. And we've done both. For a couple years, we had a CSA.
Community supported agriculture.
Right, and it was one where we could select, and there were things that we didn't grow, melons, for instance.
Right.
We did wonderful melons in the hoop house last year, and we ate 2 of them, and something
ate the
rest. And he would only take 1 bite out of the melon while it was still green, and then the melon just rotted. So, you know, pick your garden carefully,
right,
what you do well, and then go to others who do better for the things you don't do as well. And in my mind, I'm supporting organic farmers when I buy from them. And I
Absolutely.
need to be doing that as well as growing my own. So, you know, there's room to be kind of half and half. I tried to be everything in the beginning, and I gave that up because my whole life was spent out in a garden. And quite frankly, I can't freeze broccoli. You have to blanch it. I can't get the water out of it. And you end up with what's green smush. There's just so much cream of broccoli soup you want to eat in the winter, you know. And so it's like, you know, there's certain things, but
you learn as you go, and I think that that's
Right.
the key. You know, you just
The other thing you
learn
need
as
to
you go.
learn is how to eat in season. Okay, and that is, I start with asparagus and I eat asparagus every night till I can't stand it and I keep eating it. We eat peaches until we're sick of peaches, tomatoes, strawberries, raspberries. The fact is that, you know, you need to eat the way people used to eat, and that is you eat what's in season. Winters, I'm sorry, it's root vegetables, you know, and yes.
and what you've canned
And what you can.
and what you've
obviously.
preserved. We're going to do pickles next week. The
Yep.
salt ferment pickles.
Yep.
I'm going to show you my recipe. But yeah, so show us what you've got here on the counter.
Okay, I'm going to show you some canning. What I tend to do is I try to do value add items. In other words, why go and buy cans of tomatoes when I can make salsa, which is going to be a whole lot more expensive to buy, right? And then I'll buy the cheaper cans of tomatoes if I run out of tomatoes. So this is salsa that was done September 7th of last year.
Always write the date and what it is.
Yep.
Felt markers are essential.
And PS, which is pizza sauce. And that was done on August 29th. And we're usually doing about 40 pints of salsa a year. And unfortunately, we do less. This is, I'm told, the last can of pizza sauce.
Until the next
Yeah,
time you
but
make
it
it.
was done August 29th last year, so
So
it's not
just
too long
not
before
too-
we're canning again.
Before you're canning again. And then you've got, what else
And
have you got here?
this is a Sun Gold sauce, the Sun Gold
Ooh, I bet
tomatoes, the
that's
small
good.
tomatoes. This is a gift from a neighbor. And here we have an autumn olive jam.
An autumn olive is an invasive plant, and his neighbor whacks it down and makes it into jam.
Yeah,
But we don't know how it tastes because Bob's not
I've
tasted
never had it
yet.
yet. But the thing is,
Try to
is
get
that-
him to open it so I could taste it on air.
But the real key here is that, you know, they make nice gifts, and I'm in a community where lots of people can, so we trade, you know, and also recipes. My neighbor made an incredibly wonderful peach sauce for pork,
Wow.
and shared the recipe and actually canned some and did that. Now, you can find the Bible of canning.
Tamer is another person who shares what she makes, and if she ever invites you to have a care
Yeah.
package, I would say
to accept
definitely
it. Yeah.
accept it. Yes.
This is the Bible. It's the Ball Blue Book of preserving
And Ball makes the
jars and the lids and everything you need to be doing. Does anybody can? There.
Anybody in the group who's canning? Tamer, are you there?
Not at this time.
But have you?
Have you ever canned, Fran?
Years ago.
Okay. Well, one of the things, the most.
Tamer's canned. Tamer, you canned, right?
Oh, yeah, regularly.
Yeah,
Okay.
I thought so.
Right, Taylor.
Well, I learned from my mother, and the way I sterilized the jars was take boiling water and
Oh,
put it in 2 of them, okay? And then you just keep moving it as you fill the jars. I don't know if that's the way you would do it.
Do you do it that way, Tamer?
I usually do all the jars at one time to boil them, or at least five at a time.
Listen
Okay.
to this, though, Tamer. Listen to this. You're going to love this.
But there's no need for water, and the water always gets your mitts, your hot mitts wet and everything else. If you take the jars, put them in the oven at 250 for 20 minutes on cookie sheets, they're sterilized. They're totally
I love
dry. Hmm?
I love it. And they don't get the calcification from the hard water.
You know, it was the most life-changing thing I learned when it came to canning. It is absolutely incredible, and I now have dry jars, and you can take as many as you want out. You know, I use smaller cookie sheets, so I can take out like 6 jars at a time, 6 quarts.
I love it.
Yeah, it's just the perfect way to go. So that's the one thing I would say, and then just find a book. This is a wonderful book. It's from the Cooperative Extension from the University of Georgia. Found it in a bookstore. So easy to preserve. It covers everything: freezing, canning, recipes for. Well, I mean, you can see here's canning basics, canning fruits, tomatoes, sauces,
You get that
vegetables.
close, but
Okay.
most
Jelly.
extension services, most state extension services do have similar kinds of
Yeah.
books, though, I think, or, you know,
Yeah.
it's
It's covering freezing and drying and all different preservation. Probably it doesn't cover like sauerkraut,
Yeah, the
those kind of
ferments,
things,
yeah.
fermenting. And that's one thing that I always made as well. I stopped making is sauerkraut.
really.
It's just we didn't use that much of it.
Yeah.
And one of the issues is the amount of salt.
Oh, right.
You know, if you're on a lower salt diet, though I have neighbors who always came for buckets of sauerkraut.
I bet.
You know, it's just, it tastes like, and that's again what I grew up with, you know, so that's kind of what I did. I'm just looking at time here.
Okay. You're going to
let's-
show us, yeah.
Yeah. The other
Then we'll have some
thing-
questions, time for questions.
You're right.
Yeah.
The other thing that's wonderful is tomatoes, okay? You can can them if you have freezer space. The worst thing with canning tomatoes is being over boiling water. It's 90 degrees out, and you're putting them in the hot water so you can slip the skins off,
Right.
okay? The way I do tomatoes now is
Oh, that's right. He's going to show us another trick.
a wonderful, the other wonderful thing I learned. Okay, here's come out. Here are tomatoes. All I do is pare them. Okay,
Because they're frozen?
yeah. These guys are frozen, so you just wash them, pare them.
Like with a paring knife?
Yeah, just, you know, take the top out, right?
Uh-huh.
And put them in the freezer. When you get ready to use them, you take the tomato under running water, hot water, and the skin slips right off.
Oh my gosh.
So there is absolutely no need to skin your tomatoes, to peel the tomatoes before you preserve them. The other thing which works out,
Is you've got a big enough freezer.
well, and if you're doing these kind of things, freezing is probably something you do want to do. It's good, and the other thing is that the problem with canning is it's not worth canning 4 or 6 jars. You really want to be canning 12 or 24. You need bushels of tomatoes, right?
Which you can get this time of year,
you can
even in the
get.
city, even in the
But
farmers markets and
But
stuff,
you're
yeah.
preserving what you're growing. So I'm done with dinner and I have 3 tomatoes, right? They're ready. So I wash them, I pare them, I throw them in the bag that's growing in the freezer.
Ah,
So I can deal with 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s. Okay, I don't need to fill several jars and fill a big canner. That's what I like about this. Now, when I have lots of them, what do? Oh, we're talking pizza sauce. We're talking salsa. Okay.
You make it up, and then you've got something you can use. I mean, we've come over for a
Right.
visit in the winter sometimes, and
Sure.
and they've got crackers and salsa, homemade. Very nice.
My wax beans. These
All
are
frozen.
from 8.5 last year. The beans this year got planted a little
It
later.
looks like the year before last, Bob.
Oh, 18, oh my. Okay, 2 years. And you know what? They're the last thing you'd ever want to cook and eat. I live on stews and homemade soups all winter long. You throw these in a vegetable soup, it's wonderful. You throw a couple of your frozen tomatoes in there, it's wonderful. It all works out exceptionally well. And then in addition, one can do pesto, frozen pesto, which was done, he didn't date it. The husband makes the pesto. And other things that your freezer may want. Here's nice homemade breads. I keep 2 different white breads and a cinnamon raisin at all times in the
Oh, how
freezer.
nice. Frozen. So you
Frozen.
cook them up fresh. This is the thing with bread. You cook it, and that same day, as soon as it's cooled, you can slice it and freeze it, and
Yep.
it will stay tasting really fresh. And then I
Yep.
just take mine out and toast it.
Well, usually is what we will do, or sometimes breadcrumbs. I actually ended up with a small loaf, which it makes I was experimenting with some new bread pans, and it makes the perfect half sandwiches, and it holds 1 slice of tomato very nicely. So if you're on a diet, you can just bake your bread a little bit smaller,
Yeah.
and there it is. So, you know, there's a lot of things one can do. We eat from the garden, you know, all summer
I
long
see you.
and part of the winter.
That's pretty nice. All right.
So-
So
Are you ready, or you want 1 second on the angstrom?
I think we'll skip
Hold
that
on.
one. Yeah.
Yep.
So does anybody have any questions or anything? For Bob or for me, or something to share about your own gardening or canning?
I have something. I just wanted to say thank you so much for showing us your entire world of how you live. It's amazing, the thought and care that goes into it. And going back to the hood that you make for outside so that you can have certain things, you know, stay warmer. Does the hood, do you keep that up all winter? Certainly you don't necessarily grow in it, but do you just keep it up, or do you take it
No.
apart and put it together?
Actually, we take it apart and put it together, and I don't believe it really would need that. The plastic needs to come down because it can't bear the weight. The plastic's not going to bear the snow weight, and especially if we get freezing rains.
Okay.
But the fact is that, you know, we can actually be doing, we can be growing kale and Swiss chard and spinach and lettuces through November
That's great.
out there. And we can start in April, you know, because it's season extension.
Absolutely.
Now, I can't lie to you. I pray for the killing frost. I'm over it. I don't want to see another thing that I have to figure out how are we going to eat it now, but how am I going to keep it? So I am not practicing the season extension. I do get excited in the spring, and we'll start earlier in the spring, but in the fall, I pray for that killing frost. You know,
Thank you.
enough
Bob.
is enough. I have another one. And stuff. But, you know, it's all about, and never lose sight of the fact that this is, you're doing it because you want to, and you take the joy from it. And, you know, nothing makes me happier. We had the hurricane, the vestiges of the hurricane were going to come through. And I was sitting in the living room, and it was 5 o'clock at night. And I said, oh my God, my peach trees are loaded. And the branches are propped up with sticks. We're going to have 45-mile-an-hour winds. I'm going to lose every limb on my peach trees. Call went out, and in half an hour, I had 10 of my neighbors, all in the orchard, picking very happily to take peaches home. You know, but the fact is the more it seems as though the more I share, the more I get back. The more the neighbors are also gardening, and things come over here that I may not have. And so, you know, if you can grow a sense of community, that is going to be as important as growing the food you need when there's shortages.
I definitely got that from your presentation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Community.
Yeah.
And we're in an amazing community of wonderful people.
Great. Thank you.
You know, when I
Mark is actually going to put 2 or 3 raised beds in our front yard this, well, we'll probably plant garlic this fall because you can
Yep.
plant that in the winter. But
Oh, where's the garlic? There's a big bowl of garlic. I don't know where it is. He harvested.
that's exciting for me too, that we're going to be getting these, having the raised beds in the front yard. And I think that, when I went to Portland, Oregon, so many people had front yard gardens. I think we're going to see more of that because I think we were lucky in large parts of the country, in New York and especially, we didn't see a change in what foods we had. But as you know, if what they tell us is true, that this is going to be the new normal, we're going to probably be looking at thinking about some of these things. And it doesn't happen. In movies, the apocalypse happens on a weekend, but it doesn't happen that way in real life. It happens, in small ways. And I think that one of the things I hope to do with the Pandemic Kitchen is get us thinking about ways that we can begin simply doing some of these things in our lives. And as Bob said, they're not depending on everything that they grow, but it certainly makes a wonderful addition to.
It enriches our life.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we can support local organic, and right food. People, as I was saying, we have a butcher that handles only local grass-fed, organic raised cattle and chickens and everything, and every piece of meat has the name and address of the farm that raised it.
And we know where it came from and what's involved. So
What you're
that's
eating,
yeah, and that's and it's wonderful that we can do that in New York. I think hard to do that in Long Island, though very short time ago that was possible, but certainly upstate New York is very much like Maine in terms of what's available, and there's still quite a lot around the city that's available. And they're talking about rooftop gardens, and there's hydroponic gardens people are growing in containers. I know Roberta has told me about inspecting some of those hydroponic gardens. Are you there, Roberta? She's on mute, but okay.
Yes, people are growing unbelievable amounts of food in shipping containers.
Yes.
Yeah, it's organic farming. There's no insects in shipping containers. They control the humidity, the water, the light.
Yeah.
It's amazing, and they grow vertically.
Yes.
Pretty interesting.
Vertically, yeah.
There's lots of opportunity.
Do you have a question, Michelle?
Well, I was going to say, when I was listening to your story about, growing up and eating what you grew, one of my grandmothers had like 10 brothers and sisters, and they had not as big but a big, let's just say a big backyard, and a chicken coop. And basically, the dad had passed away, and they literally ate. That's what they lived off of. They had to do a little farming before they went to school, and that's how they survived, was living off of that. So I was wondering.
You can do a lot with a few chickens. And the other nice thing about chickens is that they will eat a lot of the vegetables and stuff that you would be throwing away at the end of a meal.
See?
So,
Perfect.
yeah. And some of the things that you can't put in the compost heap, the chickens are only too happy to help you with.
But Bob, are you Italian or what's your
Actually German, believe it or not.
Because Crowd kind of gave it away, but I was just really thinking about, my family stories and just really identifying with your story.
Yeah, I think it was a common one. There was also, I grew up with parents who had gone through World War II. So they had, you had the Victory Gardens. Actually, they raised chickens during the war. Yeah. And that's all they ate. My sister, still has horror stories about chickens without heads running around the yard. But I never ate chicken at home because they had eaten so much they refused to ever serve it again. Too much of a good thing. It took me a while to learn to like it, but I certainly love it now. So it just, but in a sense, we're recreating victory gardens. And the victory is for us to survive the pandemic and hopefully to help the earth before it's totally trashed and destroyed. And worry about the bees.
And worry about the bees. I have. Well, we've got plenty of hornets this year in my yard, or wasps, and they also do a lot of good. But I wanted to grow bees this year. I have a little hive. I call it my wannabe hive. But I realized I don't have any flowers in my yard, so I need to so this is going to be, I've seeded a bunch of flowers in the spring, and I'm going to put out a bunch more seeds, a pound or more of seeds in clay pellet, and see what I can hope will grow.
Probably it's not going to be enough, but the bees will fly about 2 or 3 miles.
Yeah, well.
So, you might want to put them up more towards the road.
Like a tree.
Well, the hives.
Oh, the hives. Oh, yeah, that's an idea. I could put them up in my my cousin's yard.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
It would be closer to the open fields and where they would find some stuff. That was one of my concerns because my neighbor across the road used to keep bees, and this was the first year she did not. But you know what? We have no problem with pollination. We've got bumblebees and sweat bees and,
Wasps.
and honeybees from hives further down. They are flying. We've got lots for them. So that has been really, really good for us. So, yeah. So do you want to fill up the time?
Or no, we can just, if anybody's got any other questions or anything, anybody?
I was wondering, how do you hook the top of your hoop house? Now, do you take is it round on top or is it crossed in some way?
It's crossed. It's sort of it's not quite, almost a 90.
Oh, okay. So you just use an L bracket for that.
Exactly. The thing is made with 10,000 little brackets,
Okay.
which are joining it. That's fine. The other thing one can do is, which Mike has done as well, is to take plastic piping and bend it over the raised beds.
I've seen that way too, but I liked your setup. I was just wondering how you hooked it at the top.
Yeah, I'm not so happy about using the PVC because it is plastic, because it does degrade with UV, because it's not glued. It has a tendency to separate, okay? And the real way to fix that pretty much would be to take rope from each end with a turnbuckle and tighten it, okay, to make sure you got pressure going against, both sides to keep it all together. I believe in metal conduit, okay? It's inexpensive, and it can be bent. There are benders for them. I actually, when I was doing my Master Gardeners with a community, with the, cooperative extension, I convinced them to buy 2 pipe benders for it that they own and they loan out. So up here, it's easy to do. And actually, my neighbor 2 houses down took me to heart, and he this year made one with the pipe. And I think it's far better, but I have a husband who's hard to convince. So, and it's his thing. So more power to him. And it's still standing. So
I think your husband is related to my wife.
it's a spousal thing. The spouses are always like that. No matter who you talk to.
Yep.
And we've been together, 32 years now?
Wow.
So,
Yeah, Lois and I have only made 20 so far.
well, congratulations. I'd like to say it gets easier, but some things never change.
You know, and where would the fun be in that?
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah. Now, see, this is one of the things I've been busy with of making in my garden is wine. So I'm having some cherry wine.
I'm gonna
Nice.
try to make some blackberry wine. We'll see. I'll be calling you up, Tamer, for tips.
Ooh,
Okay,
I'll be right over.
absolutely. Come on by.
I finished up the dandelion wine the other night. It was quite lovely.
Oh, good. I think actually that dandelion wine was from a year before. I think it was a little older than I realized.
Nicely aged then.
Yes.
Oh, that's great. Well, I don't know. Do we have any other questions or comments or anything?
I was
I
just
just
gonna
want to
show-
thank you for this fabulous, fabulous pandemic kitchen tonight. I loved it. It was great.
Okay, great. We're gonna be
Absolutely.
doing
Fantastic.
more like
Thank
this,
you.
more demonstrations. Now that I figured out how to use the phone as a camera, it's a lot easier.
It was wonderful to meet you all.
And you as
Wonderful
well,
people.
Bob. Thank you so much again. Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you, Susan.
You're welcome.
I was just going to show a little thing of how easy it is when you have herbs in your garden to preserve them. It really is that simple. Tie a little string around, let them dry,
Yeah.
break them up with your hand. Just
Yeah.
get it before all the leaves fall off, and it really is that simple. This is mint.
That's
Great.
great.
Yeah, I have to go get some friend's mint. And mint is one of those things that one of the names for it is yerba buena. And,
The good herb.
Spanish, the good herb. I mean, it's one of those what they call an adaptogenic herb. So it will do whatever your body needs, basically. And it tastes good. You can add it to stuff. I mean, it's really a wonderful thing to add to the garden.
That's great.
Wonderful herb.
I was going to suggest or bring up for Bob, because what I make in the spring when they come up is pesto out of the ramps.
Oh, okay.
You
And-
have
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're great for pesto.
Yeah, and Mike, I think, has done that, but I'm not sure, and I'll remind him of that because you have for every stem you have a ramp. It's the seed pod that it's trying to create, and it's got to come off, or all the energy goes into the ramp, not the bulb in the ground. Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Were you talking garlic ramps, or were you talking
No,
wild
ramp.
ramps? Wild ramps, the onions.
Wild ramps, yeah.
Yeah, that's become a huge thing in cooking.
The ramps, yeah, we
The
were trying to
ramps.
grow some, yeah. But they, and you can get them going and wild harvest them, or you can tend, if you've got them growing somewhere, you can tend them. This is kind of one of the things I learned, I think, reading a wonderful book called Braiding Sweetgrass. And she's a botanist and also one of the First Nations, I can't remember which one, but she, she talks about one of the things that Native Americans, the Indians, did is that they didn't farm in the way that we farm, but they would go and harvest, selectively harvest, not wipe out an entire field, but they would harvest. And in fact, she and one of her graduate students showed that if you harvest sweetgrass, it grows better than if you don't harvest it. Like it not wipe the whole thing out, but the same thing is probably true with ramps, that they do a little bit better when they're partially harvested. So
Yeah.
And one of the other early things that is a big Maine delicacy are fiddleheads,
oh yeah, those are great.
which
I love
are fiddleheads are the ferns.
Those are good.
I have never had them. The only ferns we have here are the Christmas ferns, so they're not really edible. They'll ruin your kidneys.
Right,
Yeah.
and Maine does have the fiddleheads, and I mean, on the side of the road, people will have signs, wash fiddleheads so much a pound, and it's a great delicacy, and it's not one that I've been able to enjoy.
Right, yeah.
I
no.
just don't like them.
Yeah, they're a little different. But they're like one of the first green things to come up. So they, when you depend on what you grow, you really have to, you really begin to appreciate how much people crave the first green shoots that came up in the spring. I know pokeweed is another one that you cannot eat. It's much too oxalic acid in it, and it can make you very, very sick. But the when the first shoots come up, and they're only a few inches high, because pokeweed grows 6 feet tall, or can. But you can pick the little shoots, and that was a delicacy all over, because people could get that first taste of fresh green vegetables. It was something that was quite something.
Careless weed. Careless weed you can eat as a vegetable.
What is?
Careless weed,
I don't know
pigweed.
that one. I don't know that one.
No, I don't know that either.
Look it
Okay.
up on the Google after we get off here. You can,
Yeah,
anything you ever want to know, I swear, is on
It's
Google.
on Google. Well, my
you
neighbor,
love it.
I'm sorry, my neighbor grows a common weed. I want to say it's plantain, but I'm not sure.
Plantain's very good.
And she makes soup. She's from France, and
Oh,
it's a
wow.
delicacy in France.
Wow.
And we've been over, and she's made it, and it's superb. So here's a case where you're just growing weeds, and I'm a firm believer that anything green early in the spring is going to do nothing but bring you health.
Dandelion greens.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, they're another really good one. Well, I think that people have come back from boating now. I hear the sound of that.
The
So
spouses are arriving.
the spice is coming. So we will, if you've got any other questions or anything, send them to me in an email. And also, I'm going to try to get these videos up on YouTube and let you know. And we will like them and share them. And the first one I need to get up is Tamer's wonderful one on the dandelion wine. So I'm technologically challenged here in the Maine woods, but I'm going to see what I can do in the next few days to remedy getting those up on YouTube. So,
Yep. From there, I've made cherry wine, plum wine, blueberry, and I think some strawberry. So
Tamer.
where's that for the wine?
All right, we'll have you talk about wine later on. Well, I'm gonna turn off our recording and say so long to everybody.
Thank you again, Bob. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.